Hello and welcome back. This is Jimmy Knott teaching a series of lessons on the important subject of leadership, specifically entitled A Leader Worth Following. Again, as I said a couple of sessions ago in our introductory time together, there's a difference in having a following and being worth following. And what you and I need to be after as growing leaders, especially Christian leaders, is that we want people to let us invest and impact their lives because there's something about who we are and what we do and how we live our lives that make them want to follow us, to listen to us. This is session 3. Brief overview of the first couple of sessions would be something like this. Everybody's a leader. It doesn't matter if you have a title. It doesn't matter if you have a position. It doesn't matter about gender. Really doesn't matter about age. It really doesn't matter that much about IQ. Anytime anyone seeks to influence the attitudes, the behavior, the growth, the development of themselves or another individuals, they are assuming a role of leadership. We're all leading. The real question is, how effective am I at leading? Last time we began to define what leadership is and to describe what leadership does. And we went straight to the gospel records into the life of Jesus in Mark chapter 3, verse 14, where the writers of the Gospels, in this case it was being Mark, talked about Jesus appointing those 12 to be with Him, and He sent them out to preach. He talked about a person who appoints, who influences. He talks about the 12, the followers, the disciples. And then he talked about a purpose to be with Him and then to accomplish objectives or to accomplish a purpose. Did you see there are two important aspects to being a leader. You got to have followers and you got to get results. And that's what's included in that definition. A leader is a person who influences others to achieve a purpose. It really is that simple. The important thing is, though, how should that person live their life? What should be unique and distinct about their lives that give them credibility to be leaders worth following? And then we turn to Luke's Gospel, Luke chapter 22, also in Matthew, also in Mark. On at least 2 different occasions, Jesus talked about what leadership worth following is all about. And it wasn't about politics, it wasn't about manipulation, it wasn't about personality, it wasn't about persona, it wasn't about ego, it wasn't about pride, it wasn't about any of those kind of things. No title, no position involved. It was simply about living your life as a sacrificial servant. I think, first of all, beginning at home and then expanding to all relationships, even to total strangers on a day-by-day basis. The best way to be a leader worth following is to practice sacrificial servanthood in your life and in my life. Today, in session 3, we're going to begin to look at the key components of being a leader worth following. And I told you last time that I have a life verse on leadership. And it's found in the Psalms. And it's a psalm written by Asaph, but that psalm is written by observations of Asaph concerning the life of David. And it's in Psalm 78 and verse 72. Psalm 78, 72. Let me read it. And David shepherded them with integrity of heart. With skillful hands he led them. That was Asaph's observation about David. He was a leader. He was a leader. In verses, the 2 preceding verses specifically, I think twice, David is referred to as a servant. Isn't that interesting? In light of what we talked about out of Luke chapter 22, being the best kind of a leader and being someone who's worth following, that they are a servant. Asaph said he led them. He was able to influence them. David was considered to be a leader worth following in spite of his failures, and we all fail. So, to me, that raises the question, what creates influence, positive influence especially? What generates credibility? What makes someone a worth following leader? I've often asked this question to folks in teaching on a subject of leadership. Why should anyone let you lead them? Why should anyone let you influence, have impact into their lives? Think with me for a minute. I'll bet you can go back into your journey, childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and strolling along the way are men and women, maybe parents, grandparents, teachers, coaches, bosses, friends, peers, who knows. And you can begin to think of people who you allowed to have influence in your life. And I'm going to say in a positive direction in light of our subject. Ask yourself this question. When you think about those individuals who really impacted your life, what was it about them that impressed you enough that you would trust them to have influence and to make impact, and for you to consider them as someone worth following? Think about that for a minute. Gallup did some research a few years ago. And it was a very revealing research. They asked over a period of a few years, they asked at least 10,000 followers. And these were marketplace followers. What is it that you're looking for in a leader that you are willing to follow? Not because you have to, because you want to follow them. What are you looking for? And there were hundreds and hundreds of attributes given in response. But when all of these attributes given in response, when they were all pulled together in a handful of different categories, there were 4 that surfaced to the top of being willing to follow someone willingly. Those were the attributes. I am willing to follow someone that I trust. I want to know that I can trust this person. They have integrity and that they're believable and that they're honest. Secondly, people want to willingly follow someone who has compassion, who cares for them, who has a genuine interest in them, first of all as a person more than anything else, and not in terms of what they can do for them. The third is, I willingly want to follow someone who provides stability in my life, supports me, gives me strength in my life. And then lastly, people want to follow somebody that creates hope for them, gives them a reason to go on, gives them a hope for tomorrow. I've often said in my leadership teaching that one of the greatest ways to define a leader worth following is that they're hope peddlers. They're giving people a reason to go on in their lives and in their work and in their journey. In Psalm 78:72, where Asaph writes of David, and David shepherded them with integrity of heart. With skillful hands he led them. Here's what I suspect. Those people that you thought about who have impacted and influenced your life, that at least in your mind they were worth following, those attributes that you think about when you think about them and how they influenced you and why you let them influence you, and then those same 4 attributes of trust and compassion and stability and hope that came as a result of the Gallup research, every one of those are found in that passage in Psalm 78:72. In Psalm 78:72 are the 3 essential components that position you and me to be a leader worth following. Here they are. Number 1, a leader worth following has integrity of heart. I put that in the words authentic character. Authentic character. What you see is who they are. They are consistent in who they are and in what they do. Authentic character. Secondly, Asaph writes, with skillful hands. I titled that exceptional competency. David knew who he was, knew what he could do, and he did that exceptionally well. Generally speaking, both as a servant and a shepherd and a king. Exceptional competence. We tend to respect talent. And the greater the talent in our perception, the more we're often willing to let them impact our lives. So integrity of heart, that's authentic character. Skillful hands, that's exceptional competency. And then last, Asaph says, and David shepherded them. Oh, there's so much in that metaphor of shepherding. David literally shepherded the sheep. When he did that, he did a lot of things to support the sheep. But more than anything else, he knew them all. This last component, this third essential component in being a leader worth following, I label relational connection. You've got to be able, as David was with the sheep, to connect with people. Leaders who are credible. Leaders who are trustworthy, which is the currency of leadership, by the way. Those are people in our lives that we believe are worth following. Always have these three essential components. There's no question that the foundational, the fundamental one, the non-negotiable one is authentic character. The core about who they are is solid and trustworthy. And then secondly is exceptional competency. People who are worth following are people that have a great sense of self-awareness and understanding their talents and their abilities and their shortcomings and their blindsided areas. They know who they are and they know what they can do exceptionally well, and they tend not just to be good at it, but they tend to enjoy those activities as well. And then third, they really work hard at connecting with people, showing compassion, caring about people that they encounter, not seeing them as objects to be used to get something done for them, but caring about them compassionately, connecting with them as people first and foremost. So here's the equation. It's kind of my 3C model, where there's character, authentic character, exceptional competency, and then relational connection. Because ultimately, remember, leadership is first and foremost about relationships before it's about achieving results. When we build relationships with people, and those relationships are built on the fact that they know we love and care for them as individuals, and they know that we always have their best interest in mind because our character is solid and core. And they know that we are able to produce, we are competent, we are capable, we are able to get things done. When the relationships are supported by those two critical components of character and competency, then that positions every one of us to be someone who is worth following. Someone that people want to allow into their lives to make a difference, to make an investment, to have influence into their thinking, into their attitudes, into their behaviors, into their actions, into their development, into their growth, in them becoming the person that God created them to be. And that's when you and I make a difference. Now I want you to look at that equation. I want you to look at those three boxes. When you look at those three boxes, do you see the mathematical sign that's there? You would think that it would be a plus sign. And for years when I developed this, it was. And then one day, I really feel like God spoke to me and He said, Jimmy, this is not about addition. It really isn't. It really isn't about addition. It's more about multiplication. Because let me tell you why. If any one of those three essential components is zero, I know ideally speaking none of them will be zero, but just stay with me for a minute. Imagine that one could be. That you assume one is not important. It's just simply not that important. And it's a zero. What does that do to the end result? Let's say you're really a person of great character, authentic character, worth following character. Let's say you're exceptionally competent and knowing who you are and how to do it and what you can do. Let's say that that's true about you, but you just don't care about people. You don't care about people, and let's say that that's a zero. So you've got solid character, you've got solid competency, but a zero in connection. What does that equal? Zero. If any one of these is zero, the result is zero. Which we don't want is as men and women who want to be leaders worth following. Now, where we're going over the next few weeks to kind of set it up for you as you come back and you watch, is I'm going to unpack over the future sessions each of these essential components. I'm probably going to break each one of these down: character, competency, and connection, and two 20 to 30 minute sessions each, because they're all so fundamentally important. This has been an exciting study so far. I can't thank you enough for being part of the experience. I look forward to seeing you next time as we talk about what is the most important component out of all three of these essential components. It's the foundation. It's the core. It's what should drive your leadership. You're being a person worth following, and that is being a person of authentic, and for you and me as believers, authentic, godly, Christ-like character. I can't wait. I'll see you next session.